A very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching Breakfast News with me, Smriti Rastogi, and a quick look at the top headlines of the day. Second half of budget session from today, government looks to pass several key bills including GST legislations. Opposition to press for discussions on Delhi University protest and fishermen. SBI Defence move to levy penalty on non-maintenance of minimum account balance, says need to offset cost of managing Jan Dhan accounts. Polling underway in Karnprayag in Uttarakhand and Alapur in UP. Over 60% voting in final phase in UP and 86% in Manipur on Wednesday. NIA likely to take over probe into Lucknow encounter. Team probing MP train blast. UP police says no evidence yet on ISIS link to slain suspected terrorist. Criminal probe into release of documents on CIA hacking tools. FBI, CIA coordinating inquiry after WikiLeaks publishes files. The second half of the budget session is all set to begin today. While the government is looking at getting the Parliament's nod on several bills, including some GST legislations, the opposition parties have given notices for the discussion on various issues.
After a 2-month-long bitter electoral campaign in 5 states, political leaders are all set to return to Parliament for the second half of the budget session from Thursday. In addition to concluding the discussion on general budget, the government is hoping to getting parliamentary approval for the sum of its bill, including the laws related to the GST regime.
अच्छा बहस हो जाए विषयों के बारे में, बजट का सत्र है, इसलिए बजट के बारे में विस्तार से चर्चा के लिए सरकार तैयार है। मैं चाहता हूं सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज भी इस सेशन को सार्थक बनाने के लिए सब लोग से सहयोग हम लोग चाहते हैं।
The opposition parties on the other side are planning to corner the government on several issues. While the main opposition Congress is likely to raise the issue of recent protest in Delhi University, others have given notices on different issues. Trinamool Congress has given notice under Rule 267 on the issue of Aadhaar cards being made compulsory for infants and midday meals. DMK MP Kanimuri has also given notice under the same rules on the issue of Tamil Nadu fishermen. The proceedings in the upper house are likely to be adjourned on Thursday after paying respects to Congress MP Hajil Abdul Salam, who had passed away during the session break. With the results of assembly polls set to be announced on March 11th, both the houses are likely to witness a lot of action after a 3-day break for Holi. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has mooted the need for reforms to prevent the use of money power in elections to the Rajya Sabha and legislative councils. On the subject of general elections, he advocated models for transparent electoral funding. Jaitley also outlined practical problems in bringing the parties under RTI.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Wednesday underscored the need for reforms in the elections to the Rajya Sabha and the Legislative Council. He pointed out that despite measures to stop cross-voting in Rajya Sabha, extra votes of MPs do help wealthy candidates. He said in this regard, even legislative councils need big improvement.
You can donate these bonds only to a political party. And these are redeemable, let us say within a period of 4 weeks, if such a time is fixed, or 3 weeks, whatever is the time the scheme will fix, of the purchase of the bond, in only one account of that political party, which has to be pre-declared to the Election Commission. So every recognized political party will have one account, it will declare to the Election Commission.
At the conference focusing on Indian politics and election reforms, the Finance Minister answered questions on issues relating to election funds, simultaneous elections and bringing political parties under RTI. In this regard, he emphasized the need to make elections cashless while mooting the need for electoral bonds.
The Rajya Sabha voting is a transparent voting. You have to show your vote. And if you vote against the decision of the party, you get out. But the problem still remains. So what does a party do when you have that last seat phenomena? I had, in the context of Karnataka, some years ago suggested to some friends that if you have this phenomena rather than allow undeserving candidates to come in by this process, allow an eminent citizen. It could be some former chief of the armed forces or a former judge or some eminent author who's politically not aligned to come in, so that such people can also have a voice in the upper house. It's better than having a money bag just enter.
The finance minister, however, denied that parties resort to exorbitant or avoidable spending during campaigns. He described the recent note ban a better step and said reforms like cashless system and GST could help improve the electoral process. Pancharan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And the State Bank of India has justified its move to levy penalty on non-maintenance of minimum balance in its accounts. The state lender said that there is a need to balance out the cost of managing large number of no-frills Jan Dhan accounts. Also, the bank says that most of the account holders need not worry about penalty as they already maintain the minimum balance. The penalty will not be applicable to Jan Dhan accounts and would be minimum for rural branches. The new charges would be applicable from 1st of April and has been reintroduced after 5 years. As per the list of revised charges, penalty will be up to 100 rupees plus service tax. In metropolitan areas, there will be a charge of 100 rupees plus service tax if the balance falls below 75% of the minimum balance of 5,000 rupees. If the shortfall is 50% or less of minimum balance, then the bank will charge 50 rupees plus service tax.
चार्ज हम लोग इसलिए लगा रहे हैं कि लोग एटीएम में जाते हैं, कैश निकालते हैं, फिर वही कैश जाके किसी को देते हैं। वो आदमी फिर वो कैश लेके उसको काउंट करता है, हिसाब करता है, फिर जाके बैंक में डिपॉजिट करता है। तो इस तरीके से जो कैश जो है उसमें भी खर्च है। ऐसा नहीं है खर्च नहीं है, आपको नहीं दिखता है क्योंकि उसके लिए हम लोग कोई चार्ज लगा नहीं रहे हैं। लेकिन कैश को छापने में, उसकी हिसाब रखने में, उसको ट्रांसपोर्ट करने में, उसको सिक्योरिटी देने में, उसको काउंट करने में, रिसाइकल करने में, हर कुछ में पैसा लगता है, चार्जेस लगते हैं। वो चार्जेस आम टैक्स पेयर्स भरते हैं। डायरेक्टली नहीं लगता है लेकिन आम टैक्स पेयर्स ही भरते हैं, नहीं तो आएगा कहाँ से। खाली यही नहीं, एटीएम को लगाने में, उसको ठीक से चलाने में, सारे चीज में कॉस्ट होती है। वो कॉस्ट कैसे आएगी, कहाँ से आएगी? जो छोटे अकाउंट वाले हैं, जितने हमारे जनधन वाले हैं, 10 करोड़ से ज़्यादा अकाउंट्स मेरे पास हैं, उनको भी चलाने में एक कॉस्ट होती है। उसको कॉस्ट हम लोग कहीं से रियलाइज नहीं कर रहे। तो हम लोग को लगता है जो हम लोग डाले हैं चार्जेस बहुत रीजनेबल है, इसमें कुछ मुश्किल नहीं होनी चाहिए।
Meanwhile, the government has made Aadhaar mandatory for availing crop insurance policies from the upcoming Kharif sowing season. The Agriculture Ministry has issued a directive to rural financial institutes to comply with the new rules starting from 1st of April. In the same notification, the government has clarified that till the time Aadhaar is assigned to an individual, crop insurance under any of the government-run schemes can be availed by furnishing documents such as bank passbook, Aadhaar enrollment ID slip, voter ID and Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act job card. Farmers can also furnish driving license along with a copy of request made for Aadhaar. And President Pranab Mukherjee on Wednesday said that it is inexcusable that women in India do not feel secure and safe as they should. In his address at the presentation of the Nari Shakti Puraskar at Rashtrapati Bhavan, he said that government is concerned about the rising rate of violent crimes against women. President said that on the International Women's Day, it is important to reiterate that every girl child and woman in the country should be assured that Government of India is fully committed to providing her an enabling environment that affords equal opportunity. The President also mentioned government's Beti Bachao Beti Padhao program, saying it is designed to motivate girl children in every part of the country to enroll in primary education.
How one should provide the equal treatment and encouragement to the advancement of women.
Modi on Wednesday felicitated women sarpanchs at a special conclave called Swachh Shakti 2017 held in Gandhinagar to mark International Women's Day. Addressing 6,000 women sarpanchs who came from across the country, the Prime Minister stressed on cleanliness and the central role of women in creating a Swachh Bharat. Reiterating the need to end female feticide, he said that women sarpanch could play a key role in ending the menace of female feticide. He also added that villages should take up the cause and not allow such practices. Modi said a discriminatory mindset cannot be accepted and society needed to change its view towards the girl child to curb female feticide.
कम से कम जहां महिला सरपंच हो, उस गांव में तो भ्रूण हत्या नहीं होनी चाहिए। मां के गर्भ में बच्ची को मार देने का पाप उस गांव में कतई नहीं होना चाहिए। और वो जागरूकता का काम एक सरपंच बहन अगर तय करे तो कर सकती है।
And Chief Justice of India J.S. Khehar on Wednesday said that gender sensitization must start at home and society's mindset towards women needs to be changed to bring gender equality. Speaking at a seminar organized by the Supreme Court's Gender Sensitization and Internal Complaints Committee on International Women's Day, Justice Khehar said that crime against women is on the rise not only due to psychological reasons but also due to physiological issues. He also expressed concerns about the growing incidence of crime against women. Chief Justice said that most of the cases are coming from the poor strata of society as they do not bother about the punishment and consequences of the crime. The CJI expressed concern over the tendency of celebrating the birth of male child but not that of a girl. He said that children see the behavior of their parents and follow the same mindset where a girl child is treated as a liability and a boy is considered as a future asset. Meanwhile, Home Minister Rajnath Singh is likely to make a statement in Parliament today on the killing of the suspected terrorist in Lucknow and also the blast in a train in Madhya Pradesh to which he was linked. The suspected terrorist was killed in a house in Thakurganj on the outskirts of Lucknow early on Wednesday after a 12-hour-long operation. The terror suspect Saifullah is suspected to be linked with a blast in the train in Madhya Pradesh on Tuesday in which 10 people were injured, 3 of them were seriously injured. The operation was carried out by the anti-terrorist squad. The investigation into the encounter is likely to be handed over to the NIA, while there has been suspicion that Saifullah was linked to the militant group ISIS. The Uttar Pradesh police said that they do not yet have any evidence pointing in that direction. The police, however, say that they seem to have been influenced by ISIS ideology.
सबसे बड़ी बात है ये इन्फ्लुएंस हो जाते हैं, प्रभाव में आ जाते हैं और अपना आचरण और कंडक्ट उसी तरह से वो करने लगते हैं। इसी की सोच के कारण, इसी इन्फ्लुएंस में इनके द्वारा ये सब कार्य करने का विचार किया गया और इसको धीरे-धीरे इन लोगों ने कार्य करना शुरू किया।
And with that, we'll slip into a very short break. On the other side, more news and updates. Stay tuned.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, affectionately known as Madiba, was South Africa's first democratically elected president, an international peacemaker and statesman, and a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Through a long career as an activist, Mandela was a crusader for equal rights for South Africa's black majority. Having undergone frequent imprisonment, in 1964, Mandela was sentenced to life in jail, charged with sabotage, treason, and violent conspiracy. He narrowly escaped the gallows. He was released in 1990, having initiated talks with South African President de Klerk towards ending apartheid in the country. Mandela was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace in 1993 for his efforts. In April 1994, the Mandela-led African National Congress won South Africa's first elections by universal suffrage. And Mandela was sworn in as president of the country's first multi-ethnic government. He retired from the presidency in 1999 and from public life in 2004. Nelson Mandela died on December 5, 2013 from a recurring lung infection.
The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. These charred bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand. Welcome back. Polling in Alapur constituency in Ambedkar Nagar district of Uttar Pradesh is taking place today. The voting for this reserved constituency was postponed after SP candidate Chandrasekhar Kanojia died of a heart attack while campaigning in Ambedkar Nagar on 12th of February. Polling in the constituency was scheduled for 15th of February. After the candidate's death, SP fielded his widow Sangeeta Chaudhary in the election. Polling for Uttarakhand's Karnaprayag seat is also taking place after the 15th February elections were postponed following the death of BSP candidate Kuldeep Singh Kanwasi in a road accident. On to some more national developments. The board examinations for class 10th and 12th students of Central Board of Secondary Education will begin today. 8,86,506 candidates have registered for class 10th examinations, which is 15.73% more than last year's figure. 10,98,981 students have enrolled for class 12th exams, a 2.82% increase from the preceding year's number. The number of students registering for class 10th exams is likely to go further up from the next session as the CBSE has decided to make the board exams compulsory. At present, these exams are voluntary. The examination for class 10th will be conducted at 16,363 centers across the country. Students will appear for class 12th examinations at 10,678 centers. 58 examination centers have also been set up in some Gulf countries and 6 in various other countries. And after the escalated tensions over the recent killing of an Indian fisherman by Sri Lankan Navy, both the countries have agreed to release the fishermen held in each other's custody. The move comes after a high-level discussion between the two sides in Colombo. According to the authorities concerned, Sri Lanka would release 85 Indian fishermen and India would free at least 19 Lankan fishermen. It is in the backdrop of the current controversy where the Sri Lankan Navy has been accused of opening fire on the Indian fishermen and killing one of them. The Lankan Navy has, however, denied the allegations and ordered an investigation into the incident. Colombo has also emphasized on maintaining good relations with India. Meanwhile, the Indian Coast Guard held yesterday 10 Sri Lankan fishermen and their 2 boats on charges of violating India's territorial waters. And India has said that the issue of veto power for the new permanent members in the reformed United Nations Security Council is important, but it should not come in the way of reform of the UN body. Speaking at the informal meeting of the General Assembly's second intergovernmental negotiations meeting in New York, India's permanent representative to the UN, Syed Akbaruddin, said, that the approach of G4 is that the problem of veto is not the one extending it immediately to new permanent members, but of quality of introducing restrictions. He said, while the new members would have the same responsibilities and obligations as current permanent members, they would not exercise the veto until a decision on the matter has been taken. India, Brazil, Germany and Japan constitute the G4, which is stressing on council reforms, and they mutually support each other's candidature for the permanent seats on an expanded body. The G4 group rejected suggestions to create a category of longer-term elected members of the council as a ploy to block adding new permanent members. And the governor of the US state of Kansas has written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressing regret at the alleged racial attack in which an Indian engineer was killed. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback conveyed that the act of hate and intolerance have no place in his state. He said, and I quote, "As governor of the state of Kansas, I would like to express my deep sadness and profound regret at the terrible act of violence committed against Shrinu Kuchibhotla and Alok Madasani. The people of Kansas share in my shock and horror. Words cannot express the sorrow that we feel for Shrinu's wife, Sunaina, and his family in Hyderabad." Unquote. Srinivas Kuchibhotla was killed and Alok Madasani, another Indian, was injured in Kansas last month in an alleged racial attack after the gunman was heard shouting, "Get out of my country." The Kansas incident and the two hate crime incidents against Indians and the Indian Americans since then has sent shock waves among the larger Indian community in the US. Earlier on 4th of March, Indian Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar, on a visit to the US, expressed confidence in President Donald Trump's administration's endeavor to bring the perpetrator of the Kansas shooting to justice. And a federal criminal investigation has been launched into WikiLeaks' publication of documents detailing alleged CIA hacking operations. The FBI and CIA will be coordinating the inquiry. The developments came after the WikiLeaks published thousands of files on Tuesday that alleged that the CIA has become the preeminent hacking operation, sneaking into high-tech phones and televisions to spy on people worldwide. The investigation will look into how the documents came into WikiLeaks' possession, who might have been leaked them. Are there any other unpublished documents that WikiLeaks has in its possession? While so far, the CIA, FBI and White House have declined to comment on the authenticity of the files, authorities say that President Donald Trump was extremely concerned about the security breach.
As you can imagine from the president's previous comments, he is extremely concerned about this, about these allegations, about this, about the potential that something, if this were true, would have on our national security. And make no mistake about it, I think the president has talked before that anybody who leaks classified information will be held to the highest degree of law. We will go after people who leak classified information. We will prosecute them to the full extent of the law. This is playing with our nation's national security is not something that should be taken lightly under this administration.
And on to some sports news. Indian captain Virat Kohli and off-spinner Ravichandran Ashwin were presented with the Paulie Umrigar Award and Dilip Sardesai Award, respectively, at the BCCI's annual ceremony in Bengaluru on Wednesday. Virat Kohli is the first Indian cricketer to receive the Paulie Umrigar Award for the third time. He was first bestowed with the honour in 2011-12 and then in 2014 and 15. R. Ashwin, who won the Dilip Sardesai Award in 2011, also became the first Indian to receive the honour twice. The BCCI Annual Award Committee nominated former domestic cricketers Rajendra Goyal and Padmakar Shivalkar for the Colonel C.K. Naidu Lifetime Achievement Award. The Mumbai Cricket Association was chosen as the state association of the season 2015-16 for winning the Ranji Trophy, the C.K. Naidu Trophy and also the Women's Plate League Group.
Yeah, all the hard work, all the training on a daily basis, all the sacrifices, I think came together nicely. Couldn't have been possible, and I've mentioned this before, without the help of my teammates throughout. You know, at times when you don't do well is when champion players in your side step up, and everyone has been able to do that, and that's why we're the top side in the world at the moment. And it's, you know, testimony to the kind of talent we have in the team and how players have stepped up on different occasions and helped the team pull through in difficult situations. So I thank all my teammates as well for the support, for the trust and the effort. And yeah, it's a great honor receiving this for the third time.
Most of what we have done through the season culminated in the West Indies. And we had a speech in this very hotel before we had a team meeting before we left for the West Indies. And Virat said one thing: if this team can achieve something special, it's because of the fact that we can create some great memories. And we prepared a charter here. Our coach is also here. And when we embarked on this particular tour, everything was happy. It was a great start. We created more memories than playing great cricket there.
And ace shuttler Saina Nehwal beat defending champion Nozomi Okuhara of Japan to advance to the All England Open second round on Wednesday. Saina beat Okuhara 21-15, 21-14 in the round 1. Saina improved her head-to-head record to 6-1 against the inconsistent Japanese. Earlier, PV Sindhu and HS Prannoy advanced to the second round of the All England Open Badminton Championships. 6-seed Sindhu eased past Danish Mette Paulsen with a 21-10, 21-11 victory in 29 minutes. In the second round, she will face Indonesian Dinar Dea Ayustein. In the men's single, HS Prannoy defeated China's Qiao Bin 17-21, 22-20, 21-19 in an excruciating match that lasted an hour and 22 minutes. India, however, fared badly in the doubles competitions. In the men's doubles category, Manu Attari and B. Sumit Reddy suffered a first-round exit at the hands of qualifiers Peter Briggs and Tom Wolfenden, who won 21-19, 10-21, 21-18 in 47 minutes. And that's all we have for you in this edition of Breakfast News. See you again tomorrow, same time. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.